All right, let's talk about something pretty cool. Imagine taking a big capital gain, plowing it into an investment, and just not paying taxes on it for years. Sounds amazing, right? Well, it's totally possible with something called a qualified opportunity fund. But, and this is a big but, only if you get the paperwork exactly right. And that's what we're going to break down in this explainer, how to do just that.
So we're diving deep into the nitty-gritty reporting you need to do for these QOF investments so you can actually defer your capital gains tax. And look, this is a seriously powerful strategy. But I've got to warn you, the rules are incredibly precise. One tiny mistake, it can have huge consequences. So let's get it right.
So what exactly is a QOF? Well, at its core, a qualified opportunity fund is a special kind of investment vehicle. Its whole purpose is to funnel money into low-income communities, what are called qualified opportunity zones, to help spur development. And in return for doing that, investors like you get some pretty sweet tax breaks.
Now, here's the thing. Just making the investment isn't enough to get those tax benefits. Not even close. You have to report it perfectly. I want you to think of it like a vault, a really secure one. You need 2 separate keys to unlock it. Get one wrong and the whole thing stays locked. You need both forms filed correctly to get this done.
All right, let's grab that first key. It's Form 8949. This is where you make your official election. You're basically raising your hand and telling the IRS, hey, see this capital gain? I'm deferring it. It all starts right here. Okay, pay close attention here, because this is where people get tripped up. It's a 2-row process. For one single deferral, you're going to make 2 separate entries on this form. First, you just report the sale of your asset, the one that generated the gain, like you normally would, nothing fancy. Then, on a totally different row, you report the deferral. It's a 2-step move on one form.
So this is your cheat sheet for that crucial second row, the deferral row. Let's break it down. In column A, you don't describe what you sold. Nope. You put in the QOF's employer identification number. It's EIN. Super important. Then, skip over to column F, and you're going to enter the letter Z. That's the magic code. And finally, the big one. Column G, you put the amount of gain you're deferring in here, but as a negative number. That's what actually subtracts it from your taxable income for the year. Pretty cool, huh?
Now, what if your gain is from selling, say, business property? You know, what the IRS calls a Section 1231 gain. Well, things get a little more specific. There's an extra step involved, using a couple of different codes. It's all about making sure everything lines up correctly with your other business tax forms. You've got to be super precise here.
Okay, we've used the first key. Now it's time for the second one, Form 8997. If Form 8949 was about unlocking the vault, Form 8997 is the annual security check to keep it locked. This isn't a one-and-done deal. You have to file this form every single year to prove you're still holding the investment. So let's make sure we're crystal clear on the difference. Form 8949, that's your one-time election. You file it in the year you make the investment and defer the gain. But Form 8997, that's the ongoing commitment. It's an annual thing for every single year you hold that QOF investment. It's how you tell the IRS, yep, I'm still in this. And you do not want to skip filing this form. Seriously. If you fail to file Form 8997, the IRS can basically just assume you sold your investment. They call it an inclusion event. And what does that mean? It means the tax you wanted to defer is suddenly due. Right now. Your whole strategy could be wiped out, and you could be looking at a surprise tax bill, not to mention penalties. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so we've got the 2 keys, the 2 forms down. But knowing how to use the keys is only half the battle. Now we've got to talk about the traps, the common mistakes that can completely invalidate your deferral, even if you fill out the forms perfectly.
First up, and this one is the most common and the most brutal, the 180-day rule. The second you realize that capital gain, a clock starts ticking. You have exactly 180 days to reinvest that gain into a QOF. There are no extensions, no do-overs. It is a hard, unforgiving deadline.
So beyond that ticking clock, there are a couple other big ones. You've got to make sure you're only deferring eligible gains. We're talking capital gains here, not your regular salary or ordinary income. And another thing, what if you invest more money than the actual gain? That's fine, but it creates something called a mixed funds investment, and you have to be ready to track the 2 parts of that investment separately. It adds a layer of complexity. Okay, so avoiding simple mistakes is one thing, but you need to know that the IRS isn't just checking boxes. Their scrutiny goes way deeper. We're talking about a forensic level of detail. They're looking past the forms and digging into the substance of the investment itself. Is this a real, legitimate business, or is it just some sham set up to grab tax breaks?
And this really shows the difference in mindset. Mainstream advice is about, did you file the right form? The forensic reality is the IRS asking, is this QOF economically viable? Is it a real business, or are we looking at sham transactions and inflated values? They want to see real substance, not just a bunch of paperwork that checks out.
So one of the first things auditors are going to check is this, the 90% investment standard. This is a huge rule. It basically says the QOF has to have at least 90% of its assets in actual qualified opportunity zone property. It's a key test to make sure the fund is doing what it's supposed to be doing, investing in the community.
And what if the QOF buys an existing building? Well, they can't just sit on it. They have to substantially improve it, which usually means they have to double its value within 30 months. And you better believe auditors are looking for shenanigans here. They're checking for things like inflated contractor bills from minor work just to hit that number on paper. They want to see real improvement, not just creative accounting.
All right, let's wrap this up by looking ahead. Because remember, this is a tax deferral, not tax elimination. The bill eventually comes due. So let's talk about 2026, the year the vault has to be opened.
So here's the journey. You make your investment. The deferral starts. You hold it for a while, maybe get some other benefits. But that big date, the one to circle in red on your calendar, is December 31st, 2026. That is the day your original deferred gain has to be recognized. The tax is due then, period. Doesn't matter if you've sold your QF investment or not.
And this leads to a really crucial point you have to plan for. When you recognize that entire gain in one shot in 2026, it's going to cause a massive spike in your adjusted gross income, your AGI. And a huge one-year jump in AGI can have all sorts of ripple effects, like triggering higher taxes on your Social Security benefits.
Yeah, this is what some people call the double torpedo effect. The first hit is the tax you owe on the deferred gain itself. That's expected. But the second hit, the collateral damage, is that the AGI spike can also cause your Medicare premiums to jump significantly. It's a nasty 1-2 punch that can catch a lot of people by surprise.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that a successful QOF strategy isn't just about filing the right forms today. It's about being prepared for the tax bill that's coming tomorrow. So the real question you should be asking yourself isn't just, did I defer my gain correctly? It's, is my entire financial plan ready for 2026? And if you're not 100% sure about the answer, now's the time to start figuring it out.